Well, Echoes, once again you hold true to the Fire Emblem tradition.
But Echoes does not have waifus.
Yes, shocking, isn't it? Not only did you deliver yet another stellar cast of characters, but just like with every Fire Emblem game, your soundtrack was fantastic too. Fire Emblem Echoes has what I consider to be an incredibly grand and epic score, giving us beautiful remixes of the original NES songs, as well as some phenomenal original pieces, not to mention delivering some of the most enthralling and mesmerizing tunes the franchise has ever composed, which from my perspective, is not an easy feat considering the competition. Now I was a fan of Echoes music right from the start, but while scripting this video and listening to the entire score all over again, this soundtrack has really grown on me and I love it even more now. I mean, it's no Sacred Stones, Path of Radiance or Awakening in my opinion, but hot damn, this is good stuff. So much so that I felt a top 10 list simply wasn't good enough, which is why this is a top 15. So join me everyone, as it's time to be swept away by music worthy of Miller's Blessing, as I count down my top 15 Fire Emblem Echoes tracks. If you've seen top 15 Fire Emblem Fates or top 20 Fire Emblem Tracks video, this list will pan out pretty much the same way. It's purely opinion based and about my personal favourite tracks. I'll keep the talking segments to a minimum and focus on the music, and feel free to disagree if you're not feeling these songs. Music is very subjective after all. Also expect some spoilers too. And with all that cleared up, I think it's about time we celebrated the music that motivated us to save the continent of Valentia, because no matter the enemy or if the obstacle is insane, this music will make sure that you're always at the top of your game. So we're beginning this list with a track that plays towards the end of the game. Something about this feels backwards. Well, even though this song has about as much availability as your late game pre-promote, I found it to be quite the impactful and foreboding tune, preparing me for the danger that lies ahead and the weight of every decision I made. The percussion and tempo of this piece alone constitutes what I consider to be a great composition, as it instills a sense of both mystery and danger by constantly shifting between the two different styles, yet also having a surprisingly catchy beat to go with it, not to mention making great use of both the piano and the violin, which I feel helps add that sense of excitement to the maps and make for a very unique and all-around tremendous song. Additionally, for the point in the game where this theme plays, I think it's very fitting, since Alma and the gang are heading into uncharted waters and don't know what to expect, which makes me look all the more forward to what lies at the end. Okay, I'm kind of cheating on this one as these are technically 3 separate songs, but since they sound so similar, I see no harm in bunching them together. All 3 of these tracks did such an excellent job of pumping me up for the conflicts that were about to take place and meshed so well with the more fast-paced and frantic battles and echoes, so that no matter how many times I heard that opening melody, it never got old. The very second this song starts, it smacks me across the face with some very strong and powerful beats, instantly hyping me up for the battle at hand and making each fight such a rush. While rather repetitive, short and lacking in depth, I think it expertly suits the situation, since fights in Echoes are generally much quicker and less flashy than most Fire Emblem games. However, you tend to be taking on a significant amount of units in a single round, so having this theme be the way it is, I felt kept each clash interesting and engaging. I also like how the different instruments and bass used in each version were even more epic than the last, showing a sense of progression that mirrors how encounters and echoes get harder and harder, which I think is a subtle but ultimately very effective detail. So while a rather basic song all things considered, for what it does well, it does it really well. Something I simply have to praise Echoes for is that the way in which the story and level progression plays out really made me feel like I was travelling across an entire continent. I mean, don't get me wrong, other Fire Emblem games do this well too, but here in particular was where I really felt that sense of adventure, and this theme encompasses the sensation of exploring new landscapes and undiscovered horizons impeccably. For an early game overworld theme, I believe this song is a wonderful way to excite the player for the journey that lies ahead, being a very uplifting and inspiring tune that uses so many instruments marvellously. Combine this with a well-paced tempo and fluctuating pitch, and you've got a song that delivered an adventure of what I can only describe as whimsical proportions. On its own, I think this track is great, however I feel it works even better as Celica's first overworld theme, since not only is she travelling by sea the majority of the time, which ties into the whole exploration vibe, but I think it doubles as a reflection on Celica's emotional state, since now she has the freedom to explore Valentia and see all the wonders that come with it. Too bad she keeps ending up in graveyards. See, this is precisely why you don't give Bowie the map. But you know what? If it means getting to hear this song over and over again, I'll be happy to follow this boob's lead at any given time. Some of you might be a bit puzzled due to never hearing the song in the game. Well, you see, this theme is only available if you acquire the Dungeon DLC through the use of the Arm Amiibo, and those things don't just grow on trees, you know. God, I love my Echo Special Edition. Well, I'm glad fortune favoured me that day, as soon enough I was treated to what I consider one of the most unique and surprising songs in the game. Being incredibly subtle and minimal, yet surprisingly powerful and moving too. Echoes, you truly astound me sometimes. From the initial outset, it was clear that this is quite the somber score. Soft violin strings, low piano keys, that slow paced and almost phantom-like sensation. This is some Tim Burton level shit. Well, it's a good thing I like Tim Burton, as this track has such a surreal and almost inhuman atmosphere that made for one of the most distinctive tracks in the game. Not to mention, when I listened closely, it almost sounded like a remix of March to Deliverance, though admittedly it doesn't work nearly as well as a map theme in my opinion. Along with doing a great job at reflecting the Dragon Duma, as this song instills the feeling of sadness, isolation and regret within me, and if that doesn't scream poetic, then I don't know what does. What? Did you honestly think Celica wouldn't get the DLC treatment too? Please, if anything, Celica is far more popular than ARM, though apparently for all the wrong reasons. Well, regardless of what everyone thinks of Celica, I thought her amiibo theme was just as wonderful as ARM's, and a stark contrast in regards to just about everything, drawing very clear parallels between the two dragons and making for one of my favourite hidden tracks in the game. I guess Nintendo really are the best when it comes to DLC. As mentioned previously, Miller's Ordeal I perceive to be pretty much the complete opposite of Duma's. The tempo is very fast and upbeat, the guitar and wind instruments are prominently used here, and instead of feeling sad and alone, this song is so warm and full of joy I just want to get up and dance when hearing this. However, that's not in my class description, so hop to it ladies, I'm not cut out for this sort of thing. Like Duma's Ordeal, this does a wonderful job at reflecting the loving and carefree nature of Miller. However, I prefer this song due to how uplifting and in my opinion original the track feels, and I would undoubtedly call Miller's Ordeal a magnificent tune fit for the goddess herself. So sorry Duma, but it seems like you always tend to get the short end of the stick. This song is a strange one for me, since without any sort of context I think it's fine as it is. However, from my perspective, because of the type of battle Celica partakes in and the people in her army, it's so clever in how it mirrors said state of affairs and makes for quite possibly one of the most fitting level themes I've ever heard. At face value, I thought Miller's Divine Protection was a catchy and surprisingly epic tune, being incredibly fast-paced and often raising the pitch and tempo to sky-high levels, resulting in a song that filled me with a level of exhilaration greater than May's ego, and that shit is bigger than both of Camilla's tits. The instruments used are fantastic too, adding so much power and mysticism to the score that gives off a very magical ambience that was just so much fun to hear. This is all well and good, but when taking into consideration how many magic units are in Celica's path, the enemies you face being skeletons and demons, in addition to the journey Celica is going on, suddenly this song seemed a lot more appropriate, and it just as appropriately earns the number 10 spot. Yeesh! Only 1/3 of the way through and the music's already this good? Man, Echo's soundtrack is no joke. Man, if you want a defining example of a song that embodies tension, dread, pride and courage, I direct you towards Pray for Victory from Radiant Dawn, but this song works well too. Twilight of the Gods is a track truly fit for the gods. The instruments, the choir, the tempo, and the oh so beautiful build up. This is the type of shit that made for some of my most memorable confrontations in Fire Emblem, and I will not forget the battle with Duma, though that's partly because of all those fucking Moogals. I swear to God, Echoes, why do you have such a fetish for summoning units? Taking down a god is no small feat, and it comes as no surprise that the music that accompanies the battle is nothing short of epic. How this song is paced is masterfully done, steadily building itself up with soft notes and vocals that prepared me for the chaos that was about to ensue. And once that beat dropped, everything sprang to life and got jacked up to the max, getting louder, better, faster, stronger, and it personified the feeling of fighting a god beautifully. Even after the rush was over, the song eased me back down to earth and gave me enough time to recover before the feeling came flooding back. And throughout its duration, the song kept changing and adding new things, so it never wore thin or became repetitive. A truly stimulating song for an equally stimulating finale. Oh shit, I think Baku has finally lost it. I told him not to read the script to Fire Emblem Fates. As amazing of a villain Baku is, I never found him to be much of a threat on the battlefield, though that seems to be a staple of the 3DS Fire Emblem era. Well, when I encountered him for the final time, this song makes it abundantly clear that he is not fucking around. Praise the Despair is an amazing musical arrangement, having some of the most passionate use of instruments and vocals that result in quite possibly the darkest and most fear-inducing track in the game, as well as impeccably fitting the sudden tragedy that has befallen our beloved Bakut. This particular record gives us such an intense and haunting ambience that it feels like the fires of hell were surrounding me, instilling a sense of dread, fear, subjugation, emptiness, and of course, despair. The song works wonders as a boss theme, doubly so now that Bakut is actually a challenge, but it's also a magnificent parallel to Bakut's state of being, as you feel the joy and sorrow Bakut is going through at this time, making for perhaps one of the most meaningful moments in Echoes. Granted, I feel this song could get quite repetitive at times, but considering how much good it does, I saw it as nothing to get worked up over. Though I wish someone told that to Bakut before he lost it. You know, you're lucky Renea still loves you after what you did. That woman is a true waifu. Echoes may have in my eyes one of the grandest soundtracks in the series, but that's not to say every piece of music had to be a barrage of noise. Sometimes the simplest of songs sing the sweetest melodies, and One Star by the Next is about as sweet as they come. This is such a beautiful and palliative piece of music that after hearing it, I completely forget about the war spreading across Valentia. Instead, all I can think of is the serene environment that accompanies it. In fact, this track gave me a real Xenoblade vibe, and any connection to that masterpiece is an automatic plus. Quite possibly the most underused track in the game, One Star by the Next plays once I discover the Hidden Forest Village, so it's not surprising that to some people, it may be forgotten among the rest. Unlike the majority of music in Echoes, this song is considerably slower and softer, focusing on low piano keys and almost angelic use of the violin and flute. Topped up of a divine pitch and placid tempo, this feeling of tranquility and serenity is so good it would make the herons blush. Like all great songs, on its own I'd say the score is dazzling, but how it's used in the game makes it even better, as the forest village is detached from the rest of Valentia and not caught up in any of the conflict, being the only place where someone can truly find peace. And if this is what peace sounds like, then I think it's in my best interests to set up shop here. Well, looks like we have another somber song from this soundtrack. I guess Echoes has more variety than I gave it credit for. Well, I've always been one for diversity, and good lord does this song have that in spades. All the different emotions conveyed are unbelievably enchanting. How it manages to be such a memorable tune despite being so minimal, the way it flawlessly reflects the current state of the game and the situation taking place, this truly is a fantastic tune. Echoes, you really do spoil me sometimes. It's quite funny that Celica's first Overworld theme was so uplifting, and now this one is the polar opposite. It's almost like the music reflects the character's state of being and how it changes over the course of the story. While putting the obvious symbolism aside for a minute, this Song of Bygone Days is quite feasibly the most beautiful and at the same time sad track in Echoes. There's a significant emphasis on the choir here and it made for such a splendid tune. But at the same time, the tempo and other instruments give off a really haunting sensation that increase the feeling of both splendor and desolation, and how it was able to portray these polar opposite emotions is undeniably commendable. Additionally, since this song plays in part 4 of the game, I think it reflects the tone of the story perfectly, as this is where things become much darker and the characters are at some of their lowest points, wishing back to a time of days bygone. And now we have what is essentially the theme song to Fire Emblem Echoes, since I think it's safe to say that this is the track most people associate with Shadows of Valentia, and I can certainly see why. March to Deliverance has got to be one of the most motivational and energetic tunes in Fire Emblem, doing a fantastic job at getting me excited for the battle at hand and being an absolutely unforgettable song that will go down as one of the best character themes in Fire Emblem history. I doubt at this point the need to explain why this song is so fantastic is necessary, but I'm going to try anyway. The instant I heard those opening notes, this song immediately pulled me into the action and put me on the edge of my seat with those intense drums and audacious violin strings. From there, it just kept getting better, changing the tempo, altering the pitch, knowing when to go all out and when to pull back and slow things down. God, this is great stuff, and pretty much the ideal map theme, especially since it plays in part 3, where Arm is leading the deliverance. Speaking of which, in my opinion, March to Deliverance is a song seamlessly suited for Arm, as it reflects his very bold and ambitious nature, unwavering resolve and pure-hearted determination. And the same way Arm is able to inspire and motivate those around him, this track inspires and motivates all who listen to it.
On an ocean of stars, sea, untouched by the war that they waged, laid low by their scars, a people wounded but free, seek what lies beyond this dark age.
And here we have the obligatory end credit song sung by one of the cast. Who knew Celica had such an amazing voice? And it mercifully transcended into this song as well, being the perfect piece to cap off the adventure, and a very powerful, majestic score that makes me feel like a massive weight has been lifted from my shoulders and I've really achieved something. I guess that's another one for the leaderboards. Most Fire Emblem games tend to have very soft and soothing end credits themes. However, this song specifically, I thought was surprisingly intense. The piano, bass, drums and so on are relatively bold and the overall tempo is reasonably fast, backed up by Silk's pretty powerful voice, which definitely imparted the feeling of pride and triumph to me and made for a very grand ending song. With that said, there were still plenty of quiet moments where everything became softer, slower and more serene, which I feel was necessary after completing such an arduous adventure, so this song hit that nice balance between the two and made for an all-around prestigious piece of music. The lyrics are also fantastic, symbolizing the need to move forward and live without the gods, to forge our own destinies and take our lives into our own hands, which was essentially the entire message behind Fire Emblem Echoes. At least that's what I got from it. That being said, I personally didn't find it to be particularly memorable, even upon multiple replays, but that's just me, and it doesn't change the fact that this is a wonderful way to cap off Fire Emblem Echoes. Or most of it anyway. Because of how great of a villain Baku was, people tend to forget that Rudolph was a thing. Granted, he's not anything special as far as villains go in my opinion, but I like him, and his theme is something he can truly be proud of. Lord of a Dead Empire has got to be one of the most fitting songs I've heard in a Fire Emblem game, as it matches Rudolph and his story arc criminally well, not to mention accumulating such intensity and peril that made for an incredibly apprehensive fight. So be sure not to make too many mistakes, because as Rudolph says, "A merciful leader may grant a second chance. Only a fool allows for a third." Being an emperor, it comes as no surprise that Rudolph would have a rather epic theme song, and this track makes that abundantly clear, as it loves to make use out of vocals by having them practically everywhere, and they add so much majesty and grandeur to this piece, especially with that very theatrical, almost opera-like sonata. Other aspects of this song like the tempo and bass help to build on the vocals and complement the weight and emotion of the track, since despite being so powerful, there's a sense of emptiness and misery which I feel is a beautiful parallel to Rudolph's character and actions, but it's done in a very subtle way that I feel gives it quite the level of depth, and made for one of the most impactful and moving pieces of music in the game, though I'm not surprised that villains get some of the best songs, and Rudolph is not the only one. I don't know about the rest of you, but I was shocked to see Grimmer in Echoes, even more so how much they improved the lore surrounding him, so that now the twist in Awakening doesn't seem so stupid. No, I still think it's pretty stupid, but the bottom line is Echoes did an excellent job with Grimmer, and the same goes for its battle music too. Now I thought Echoes' soundtrack was pretty epic to begin with, but this is on a completely new level, as this track is so intense, intoxicating and simply outstanding, I think it would be worthy to be featured in a Final Fantasy or Kingdom Hearts game, and I don't need to tell you how good those games' soundtracks are. Grimmer's theme wastes no time in slamming me in the face with such intense vocals and instruments, hauling me right into the action as I was enveloped in the full atmosphere of this fight. Throughout the entire sequence, the score kept on building and building, never once slowing down or letting up, and my god did it make for such an unforgettable experience. This song delivers a rigorous rush that I can't stop coming back to, and I also noticed that occasionally, the music would intentionally fluctuate, adding a sense of insanity and an unsettling sensation to the piece, which I feel fits Grimmer all too well, and once again proves that villain songs make for some of the best out there. And if the last two didn't convince you, then the next one most certainly will. Damn it, Baku, you just won't go away, will you? First you become one of the greatest Fire Emblem villains, then you steamroll your way into heroes, and now you appear on this list twice, as well as make it to first place. I swear that high horse of yours is going to be 10 feet tall at this point. Well, what did you expect? I am the greatest Fire Emblem villain after all.
Excuse me? Pfft, newcomers.
Baku's Fiend, the Prince of Darkness, is my positively favourite track in Fire Emblem Echoes. No song in this game has been more fitting, more enchanting, more unique, more beautifully composed and just downright fantastic as this one. Baku, you truly are one of the best aspects of this game, especially for being an original character. It's such a shame that not every newcomer fared as well as you did. Something interesting to note is that I detected that this particular song shares an uncanny parallel with Pride and Arrogance, as they both use similar instrumentals and vocal arrangements. However, I was always a big fan of the former due to its slower and more atmospheric nature. The way this song begins with such a slow and grandiose opening reflects the prideful and authoritative nature of Baku, as well as having a dark undertone that is irrefutably intimidating, but not outright evil. From there, the vocals become more involved and emphasize the arrogant and imperial side of him, but the tempo and background instruments stay consistent and rather mellow, allowing everything else to take full effect and bring out all the raw emotion of this song. By itself, I'd say this is a superbly special and spellbinding track, but when used as a way to imitate Baku, it surpasses the rest of Echo soundtrack to the point where I can wholeheartedly say that nothing else in this game can hold a candle to it. Fire Emblem Echoes has blessed us in many ways, and Baku is often considered the greatest of all blessings, and will be praised at every opportunity possible. And in my opinion, his theme song is just as remarkable as the man himself, as to me, it is one of the most beautifully composed, perfectly paralleled, hauntingly harmonious and straight up incredible melodies I've heard from any Fire Emblem game, which is why it takes the #1 spot as my favourite song from Fire Emblem Echoes, Shadows of Valentia. This has been Blazing Knight. I wish you all a great night, take care, and Echoes, you once again demonstrated just how amazing Fire Emblem soundtracks are. And considering how much I adore this game's soundtrack and its two predecessors, just like with characters, Fire Emblem Switch has a lot to live up to. Thank you all for watching today, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Feel free to tell me your thoughts in the comments and how you feel in regards to Echo's soundtrack, because from what I've heard, it's quickly becoming a lot of Fire Emblem fans' new favourite. So please let me know why that is, or if that's not the case, which tracks were some of your favourites in the game. Once again, thank you all for watching. Be sure to give this video a like as it really helps out the channel and it means a lot to me, and also consider subscribing if you like these types of videos and want to see more. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter and on Amino if you want to keep updated with what I'm doing, or just have a friendly chat with me, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Anyway, that's it from me. I'll see you all next time.